Do I need a lawyer? Actually, let's make that a little bit more specific. Do I need an IP lawyer? I remember back in undergrad, I went to the College of Charleston and I actually spent one of my semesters in a 10-week-long student incubator for business ideas. And the premise of, so an incubator, if you don't know, that is essentially a program that sometimes nonprofits, sometimes schools will put together to help local entrepreneurs get their business from just an idea to an actual minimum viable product. And then there's also accelerators where maybe you already have a fledgling business, you're just trying to accelerate the growth. So in that case, you would join an accelerator program. I joined this incubator and I remember this was probably halfway through. And so at this point, we had our teams, we had our business ideas. And what was really great about this opportunity, even though it didn't result in a startup that was it never grew into an actual business, which in hindsight I'm okay with, because the idea we had, which was at the time for a blind hire applicant tracking system, and an applicant tracking system in and of itself, I think is a complex product, especially if you're trying to utilize AI in that process. And then on top of that, trying to make it blind hire. I think we just need people who know what they're doing more than me, at least, working on that sort of product. That being said, even though the business idea didn't take off past that class really, what I took away the most from that class was, as we were going through and we were being taught how to essentially start a business, quite frankly, the biggest lessons that I took from that were your partnerships. And not just the people you work with, but who your mentors are, who your investors are. And all of those relationships, how are they protected, right? And that also goes along with your idea and how your idea is protected. And so I'm saying all of this because at some point you will need to talk to a lawyer about protecting your business. And it was actually during that class where we were talking with an IP attorney. I don't remember exactly what his specialty was. It may have been patents, just because a lot of the ideas in the room involved tech. I just remember sitting there thinking, wow, I wish I was on the other side of this table right now. I want to be the person that is helping other entrepreneurs and creators protect their businesses and their livelihoods. And so now here we are. And if you're at that point where you're starting to ask the question, do I need an IP attorney or an attorney to help me go through my business and come up with a strategy for protecting my ideas? I think if you're at that point where you're asking that question, it's worth it to just do research on lawyers in your area or lawyers that you know of and look into what they offer and ask questions. A lot of lawyers will do consultations where you can tell them, I'm at this point in my business. I know that A, B, and C are important for protecting my ideas. Do I need one right now? A lawyer will walk you through their approach for how to approach IP strategy and brand protection. They can go through and do kind of an audit of what you're doing and give you choices as to how you can go about protecting what you're doing. At one point, a few months ago, back when I was actually thinking about going into business as a copywriter, on my own, just having a freelancing LLC set up, I spoke with an attorney, not in a formal setting. It was someone that I had known just in the area, and I mentioned that. And one of the markers for knowing when you might need more protection in your toolbox for your business is, are you generating income? He was like, if you're not generating income, then I wouldn't be too worried about it. As soon as you are at a point where that is a very, very real possibility, or you're already making income from a product, it's worth it to reach out to an attorney and make sure that one, that you have everything in place to be operating a legal business, and two, that your ideas are protected and that you have proper contracts, proper terms of service, privacy policies on your website, how you can go about protecting your ideas through IP. Copyrights can help protect product marketing photos that you take. Trademark is really good for branding and logos, as most people know. If you have a very complex product that you invented, patent lawyers would be people that you would go and explore. Trade secrets, that comes down to valuable business information that you want to keep protected. Going to a lawyer will help you determine what you need to have in place, what practices you need to have in place to protect your trade secrets, and to get a better, fuller understanding of what that looks like day to day for you as a business owner. The next question that I think a lot of people ask is, do I really need a lawyer to walk me through all this stuff? And you're probably thinking, of course she's going to say yes, she's an attorney now. I do like my job, I really do. I read about this stuff for fun just because I think it's interesting. There are some things that entrepreneurs can do on their own, and if you're trying to save costs, that makes complete sense. But if you're at a point where you are concerned about protecting your brand and you want to have a solid IP strategy in place, it will never hurt to go to someone where literally their entire day-to-day is that, helping other people figure out what that looks like for them. A few years ago, I also interviewed 2 lawyers. One is Francesca Witzberg. I work for her now at ESCA Legal. I also spoke with Elaine Spector, who is a partner at Harity & Harity. She specializes in patent law. And basically the whole article was answering the question, okay, someone's going to go to an IP lawyer to learn how to protect their business. What should they know before going to the lawyer? And there's a few lessons that I took away from that interview with both of them. One is that there's kind of 2 sides to this, right? So like patents is kind of its own beast. I interviewed both of them to kind of get both aspects of those perspectives. And what I remember Francesca saying, essentially when it comes to IP and brand protection, if you were going to, let's say hypothetically, you were going to start your own jewelry store, right? And this jewelry is jewelry, it's expensive, it's shiny, it's pretty. Would you start a jewelry store without getting security for your jewelry store? Would you start a football team but not have any defensive players? That is essentially how a lot of lawyers see IP and brand protection, especially us at ESCA. It's not just about waiting for you to end up in court before you go and see a lawyer. You want to do as much as you can to stake a claim in your brand in terms of ownership and having rights, so your ability to act on those rights in court at a later time if you need to, or ask people to stop infringing or using your IP. You don't want to wait until the worst case scenario to figure out what you're going to do in a worst case scenario. And so that is why talking to an IP and brand protection lawyer or business lawyers to go over what you're doing and what you're wanting to build will help you in the long run. Yes, it may seem like a steep investment at the time, but again, this is protecting your livelihood and your business, and you want to make sure you're doing it right. So that would be my answer for, do I need an IP attorney? And just to recap, it depends on where you're at in your ideation process and business building process. But I will say that it's always good to go to people who specialize in whatever it is you're wanting to learn more about, to make sure that you are getting all your ducks in a row and you're covering all your bases. Insert all the other business cliches that have ever been put out there here. This was helpful for you, or you have any other questions that you've always wanted to ask an attorney, or specifically an IP and brand protection attorney, please put them down in the comments. Go and check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you, and subscribe for my next one next week.